Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into, well, a world that's both incredibly alluring and, let's be honest, maybe a little insidious. It's this pervasive realm of lifestyle fantasy and influencer culture.
Mhm.
So, our mission in this deep dive, which just for you, we've custom tailored from a bunch of really fascinating articles and research, is to unpack what this whole thing really is, why it holds such incredible sway over us, and importantly, uncover the often hidden costs it entails.
Yeah, the hidden stuff is key.
Definitely. And this whole deep dive, it really kicked off for us with this observation from one of our sources, which I found fascinating. It was about how grown, successful women can find themselves like borrowing pieces of curated strangers' lives and calling it identity.
Wow.
Even when, and this is the kicker, they know better.
They know better, but they still do it.
Yeah. So forget what you think you know about just scrolling social media. Our sources are telling us that this lifestyle fantasy, it isn't just about pretty pictures online. It's like this meticulously engineered illusion. It subtly tells us, look, this is what success looks like. And apparently, it's profoundly messing with our minds.
That's absolutely right. When you hear lifestyle fantasy, you should think of that um, glorified, picture-perfect version of life we see pretty much everywhere. TV, magazines, yeah, all over social media.
Right.
It's that, the spotless, cozy kitchen, the perfectly coordinated outfits.
Or that candle that costs $80.
Exactly. That just because candle that somehow costs $80, the underlying message, it's always the same.
Yeah.
This is what you should be aspiring to.
And the immediate problem there is, well, chasing that image, it can really mess with your head, can't it?
Oh, definitely.
Creates pressure,
Yeah.
unrealistic expectations, and yeah, that source mentioned a whole lot of quiet shame when your actual real life doesn't quite match up to the fantasy.
That quiet shame is powerful.
But, okay, this isn't a totally new thing, is it? This idea of influence.
Not at all. That's what's so fascinating here, how old the concept of influence really is. I mean, way before TikTok, before Instagram, people were influenced by, word-of-mouth recommendations, community leaders, even royalty way back when.
Sure.
Think about traditional endorsements.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson and Pepsi or Paul Hogan and Foster's Beer back in the
That's
day.
huge.
Yeah, they moved products because those people had massive cultural sway.
Okay, so if the basic idea of influence isn't new, what exactly changed to make it just so pervasive, so everywhere now?
Oh, the internet, unequivocally.
Mm.
It just allowed influence to scale up massively, incredibly rapidly. Back in the early 2000s, blogs started letting, as one source put it, any old Tom, Dick, or Harry
Yeah.
share their expertise.
Right. Democratized expertise, kind of.
Sort of. Then you had MySpace and Facebook broadening the reach even further. But the real boom, you could call it, happened maybe mid-2000s to early 2010s. YouTube gave us stars like PewDiePie, Twitter changed how we get news bites, and then Instagram landed.
Ah, Instagram, the visual powerhouse.
Exactly. Instagram's whole aesthetic-driven approach just made it the perfect platform to showcase those perfect lifestyles and, crucially, to make brand collaborations easy.
That's when the money really poured in.
That's when the full commercialization really kicked into high gear.
Yeah.
Brand partnership, sponsored content, affiliate marketing was born, as one source put it. And that led pretty quickly to dedicated influencer marketing agencies, different tiers of influencers, mega, macro, micro, the whole ecosystem.
Okay, so here's where it gets, for me anyway, really interesting. Why do so many of us, as, supposedly grown adults who know better, still find ourselves so drawn to like a celebrity's wardrobe or whatever the latest influencer hack is? It feels like it's got to be deeper than just wanting the product itself, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Our sources dig into this and they uncover these 4 key psychological triggers that are surprisingly powerful. The first one they talk about is the illusion of transformation. We aren't just buying a product, are we? It's more like
Buying into the fantasy of transformation.
yeah.
Exactly. There's this subconscious belief often that owning a specific thing, like, say, Meghan Markle's sweater,
Yeah, the famous sweater example.
right, that owning it will somehow magically imbue us with her qualities, her poise, her lifestyle, her perceived happiness.
Perceived happiness. That's a key phrase there.
And it's a really powerful, often unspoken promise, isn't it?
Yeah.
And tied right into that is the second driver, the power of parasocial relationships.
Ah, okay. Explain that one a bit.
So these are those one-sided relationships that we develop with public figures like influencers. You feel like you know them. They create a sense of intimacy and trust, even though, the influencer has absolutely no idea who you are.
Right. It feels personal even though it isn't.
Exactly. And Dr. Mark Johnson, a media studies prof, puts it really well. He says, when an influencer recommends a product, it feels like advice from a friend rather than an advertisement.
Okay, yeah.
And that blurring of the line between what feels like a genuine connection and what's actually just marketing makes people incredibly susceptible to the influence.
That blurring. It feels kind of insidious, doesn't it? It's like your brain gets tricked into thinking, oh, my friend recommended this, not this is a paid ad.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It bypasses our usual advertising filters.
Okay, so what about that Jenny Kane sweater example again? The one that sold out super fast. That wasn't just about popularity or parasocial relationships, was it? There was something else going on.
No, you're right. That often taps into the third driver, the scarcity principle.
FOMO, fear of missing out.
Exactly. FOMO. Marketers deliberately use limited availability, only 10 left, selling out fast, to create that urgency and FOMO. And according to our sources, this strategy actually overrides logical thinking and leads to impulse purchases. You just feel like you have to grab it before it's gone, even if you don't really need it or can't really afford it.
Yeah, your rational brain just shuts off for a second. Okay, and the last one. The fourth psychological driver.
This one, I think, is maybe the deepest. It's the identity gap.
The identity gap. Okay.
The idea here is that many people buy into these lifestyles because deep down, they're trying to fill a gap between who they are and who they want to be.
Ah. So buying stuff feels like progress towards that ideal self.
Exactly. In this context, consumption can feel like progress, like you're becoming that person you aspire to be, even if it's just an illusion.
Wow. Okay, so if we connect all these psychological hooks to the bigger picture, this isn't just about, individuals making choices about sweaters. It sounds like it has pretty significant personal and societal costs.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding this whole phenomenon is actually really crucial, especially if you're a leader or a business owner. Why? Because it directly affects your customers and employees who are just bombarded with these messages constantly.
Their mindset is shaped by this stuff.
Yeah, and it also influences market trends. If you ignore this stuff, you might miss important shifts in what people want or value. Plus, it distorts priorities, right? It leads us, collectively sometimes, to chase these impossible ideals instead of focusing on maybe more meaningful things.
And the mental health impact.
Oh, huge. Critically, it impacts mental health. It definitely contributes to stress, anxiety, burnout for individuals trying to keep up, and even within teams or workplaces where that pressure exists.
Our sources gave some really specific examples, didn't they? These realistic lifestyle fantasy examples that just hit home.
They did, and they're quite telling.
Like Sarah, the 35-year-old marketing exec, she bought that $400 Jenny Kane sweater you mentioned, hoping it would make her feel more elegant, right? Only to realize, and this quote just killed me, I'm still me, just with less money.
Oof. Yeah, that's a brutal, honest reality check, isn't it? Perfectly captures that kind of hollow feeling after the purchase high wears off.
Totally. And then there was Tom, the graphic designer.
Right. Tom, 28. He apparently maxed out his credit card buying stuff he didn't need because he was following some tech influencer. Eventually, thankfully, he realized that skills matter more than having a fancy setup.
Good for him. And Jenny, the small business owner.
Jenny, 42. Her story was about being obsessed with this mommy blogger. And she said she was so busy trying to be her that I wasn't present in my own life. She called it her big wake-up call.
Wow. These stories really drive home the real cost of lifestyle fantasy, as the sources put it. It's clearly not just financial strain, though that's part of it.
No, it goes way beyond money.
Yeah, it's also decreased self-esteem, neglecting personal growth because you're chasing an image. There's a huge environmental impact from all this constant consumption.
Sure. Fast fashion tech upgrades.
Exactly. And even relationship strain. It sounds like it puts a really hefty price tag on chasing the fantasy, way beyond just the dollars and cents.
Definitely a multifaceted cost.
Okay, so we've kind of peeled back the layers on this whole pervasive fantasy thing, where it came from, the psychological hooks, even some of the darker realities behind the production side. But if it's so widespread and arguably problematic, why do we so rarely hear it called out, really critiqued?
Yeah.
I mean, one of our sources pretty boldly calls lifestyle fantasy the secret religion of modern life.
Wow, that's a strong statement.
Yeah. Worshipped quietly, paid for with our money and our self-worth, and just rarely questioned out loud. But couldn't you argue maybe it's just harmless escapism? A bit of fun, looking at nice things.
That's a fair question, and maybe for some people, in small doses, it is. But our sources point to several, frankly, uncomfortable reasons why nobody discusses lifestyle fantasy in a critical way. First, and maybe most obviously, it's just Too profitable to question.
Ah, money talks.
Always. This fantasy, it sells everything you know. The $300 dresses, the $60 candles, those $1,400 cozy couches. The dream is the product.
Mhm.
So just naming it, calling it a fantasy, well, that threatens the whole marketing machine.
Right. It's literally bad for business to burst the bubble. Okay, what else?
Second, and this one's a bit more personal for us as consumers, it exposes the audience's complicity.
Ooh, okay.
Meaning,
Meaning most people don't really want to admit that they're emotionally aroused by it, or that they're escaping through it, or maybe even shaping their desires around something fake. It's just uncomfortable to acknowledge our own susceptibility to it all.
yeah, nobody likes to admit they've been influenced in that way. Okay, third reason.
Third, it's simply become so normal we don't even see it anymore.
It's just the background noise of life now.
Pretty much. When everyone is doing it, curating their lives, branding themselves, promoting their lifestyle, it stops looking fake. It just becomes default. We've kind of lost sight of what real even looks like online. That's actually a pretty chilling thought, that the fake has become our baseline reality.
It is a bit unsettling, yeah.
And I guess even people who could critique it, maybe journalists or academics, they might be in a tricky position too.
Exactly. That's the fourth point. Many critics are also participants. Even, writers or podcasters or academics, they often depend on lifestyle fantasies to sell themselves or their own work, their personal brand.
Ah, right. Can't bite the hand that feeds you.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
To critique the system too harshly would mean burning down the house they live in, metaphorically speaking.
Okay. And the last reason.
Finally, it blurs the line between inspiration and addiction. People might genuinely think they're being inspired by an influencer's life or purchases.
Oh, that gives me an idea.
Right. But often, they might actually be just numbing out with prettier distractions.
Yeah.
Buying things for a quick dopamine hit for escape rather than for genuine growth or need.
So inspiration versus just consumption as a coping mechanism.
Something like that, yeah. It's a very fine line.
Okay, given all of that, the profitability, the complicity, the normalization, how does this whole hustle and hype economy actually operate? What are the hidden mechanics, the realities behind that polished facade?
Well, Fashion Nova provides a really staggering case study in exactly how this hustle and hype economy works. Our sources really dug into their model.
The fast fashion giant, right?
The ultra-fast fashion giant. They had this incredibly aggressive business model. They weren't just, paying big names like Cardi B for shout-outs, though they do that too, signing her for lines. They're also, almost systematically, building this huge army of micro-famous brand ambassadors, giving them free clothes, maybe small fees, all pushing this very specific, hyper-curvy look.
So essentially creating a massive, often unpaid or low-paid sales force through Instagram.
Precisely. They became infamous for fastest fashion, like rapidly cloning celebrity outfits. One source mentioned Kim Kardashian wearing a gown, and Fashion Nova having a clone ready almost within a day.
A day, wow.
Or Kylie Jenner's party dresses cloned within hours. And as Bimi Fafawara, who actually worked for Nova, put it bluntly, on Instagram, you can't wear anything twice.
That pressure to constantly have new stuff.
It fuels the whole machine, and it led to this Nova Babe phenomenon. Get this. Over 10 million posts have been made by ordinary young women, essentially auditioning for Fashion Nova's attention, hoping to get noticed, maybe get free clothes.
So they're providing free labor as promo girls.
Exactly. Millions of them.
And the aesthetic they were pushing, it was incredibly specific, wasn't it?
Oh, very. The whole Insta-baddie look, the narrow waist, the wide hips, the thick lips, and often what's described as a kind of racially ambiguous appearance.
Right, I've heard about this, the blackfishing controversy.
Yeah, this even led to that concerning practice called blackfishing, where white women adopt aesthetics strongly associated with black women. The sources mentioned a Polish woman named Aga, who was accused of cosplaying as black women, and also Emma Hallberg, a prominent Fashion Nova ambassador who faced similar accusations. There's a clear, troubling economic incentive for this kind of racial cosplay within that aesthetic.
That's incredibly problematic, using racial identity basically as a fashion trend for profit. What else did the sources uncover about the sort of hidden side of Fashion Nova?
Well, the darker side definitely extends deep into their supply chain. Our sources revealed evidence of hidden sweatshops right in downtown L.A.
In L.A., not overseas.
Right here in L.A., employing predominantly Latina migrants. Reports indicated that 85% of factories involved were potentially paying under the minimum wage, sometimes as low as $5.50 an hour, when California's minimum was like $14, $15 an hour.
Wow, that's exploitation, plain and simple.
Yeah, often involving the exploitation of vulnerable, undocumented workers.
Yeah.
Now, Fashion Nova itself claimed it wasn't directly responsible, that these were third-party contractors.
Mm.
But Department of Labor findings seem to contradict that, suggesting a level of responsibility.
So you have this glossy, maybe even empowering image projected online.
Right.
But behind the scenes, there's potential exploitation, definitely questionable ethics in the supply chain.
Exactly. And you can add consumer issues on top of that. Fashion Nova has been fined by the FTC for things like failed to refund buyers properly, and even ordered to pay millions for allegedly suppressed negative reviews on their website.
So hiding the bad feedback.
Seems like it. The real kicker, the stark contradiction, is that you might walk into a Fashion Nova store and see slogans like equality or independent woman splashed on the walls.
Yeah.
Yet the brand stands accused of building its empire, at least partly, on the exploitation of other, often vulnerable women in its supply chain.
That's quite a disconnect. Okay, so with all this understanding, the fantasy, the psychology, the hidden, sometimes ugly realities, this crucial question of authenticity really comes bubbling to the surface, doesn't it? Our sources suggest there's a real paradox here, especially for the influencers themselves, but maybe for us as consumers too. They define authenticity in this context as basically the genuine portrayal of one's lifestyle, experiences, and endorsements. But how genuine can it really be when there's so much money, so much pressure on the line?
That really is the core tension, isn't it? Influencers, especially in certain niches, the sources mentioned the superyacht industry as one example.
Yeah.
They have to constantly perform this balancing act between creating aspirational content, the dream, and maintaining some semblance of authenticity. Although, as one source inside that world candidly put it when asked if it's always authentic, lol, of course it isn't.
At least they're honest about the dishonesty.
Right. The conflict is just baked in. Maintaining true authenticity often clashes directly with the commercial drive, because at the end of the day, as they say, numbers are numbers, and more followers means more money.
It's almost like a satirical performance, just trying to appear authentic in that kind of environment. I mean, one source even included this funny satirical guide on how to be the best influencer.
Oh, yeah?
And it just perfectly illustrated the absurd lengths people might go to for fake authenticity, like photoshopping yourself into exotic places you've never been.
Been there, done that.
Virtually.
Right. Overloading on ridiculous hashtags like hashtag unicorn, hashtag tears, promoting totally dubious products, shamelessly copying other influencers. It just highlights how ludicrous that whole pursuit of perfect inauthenticity can become.
It really does put it in perspective. So, okay, we've talked a lot about the problem, the fantasy, the hidden stuff. What can you, listening right now, actually do to navigate this overwhelming landscape, whether you're just trying to be a savvy consumer or maybe even creating content yourself?
Yeah, give us the tools. How do we break free? Okay, so for breaking free, how to resist the pull of lifestyle fantasy. Here are some concrete strategies our sources suggest. First, and this sounds simple, but it's hard, practice mindful consumption. Before you click buy, actually pause and ask yourself, do I really need this, or am I just trying to buy a feeling?
Ooh, good question. Need versus feeling. Okay.
Second, curate your media diet. Like intentionally unfollow accounts that consistently make you feel bad about yourself or trigger that comparison trap.
The digital detox, or at least a digital Marie Kondo.
Exactly. Does this account spark joy or anxiety? And tied to that, focus on experiences over things. Invest your time and money in activities, relationships, learning stuff that brings genuine joy and growth, not just temporary acquisition highs.
So less scrolling, more actual living. Got it. Makes sense.
Totally. Also, try to develop your personal style. Explore what clothes, what decor, what hobbies truly resonate with you, instead of just trying to copy whatever influencers are pushing this week.
Find your own taste, basically.
Yeah. And build self-awareness. This means regularly checking in with yourself, like, what are my values? What are my real goals? What truly makes me happy? Separate from the noise online.
Okay.
And finally, maybe most importantly, seek authentic connections. Cultivate real relationships, offline and online, that don't revolve around consumption or appearances.
Real substance over curated images. Okay, that's great for us as individuals. What about for people who are content creators themselves or business leaders who operate in this space?
Right. There's also the business angle, navigating lifestyle fantasy as a leader. If you're creating content or leading a brand, the advice is, first, be transparent. Just clearly disclose your partnerships and sponsored content. Build trust through honesty.
Makes sense. No sneaky ads.
Exactly. Second, focus on value. Highlight how your products or services genuinely improve people's lives in a real way, not just how they improve their image.
Hudson over style again.
Yeah. And promote authenticity. Where possible, share real stories and experiences, not just the perfectly polished facades. Show the process, the imperfections,
Be relatable, basically.
and maybe even encourage mindful consumption. Think about how your brand can promote sustainability and responsible buying habits, rather than just constant churning.
That's a big one. Challenging, but important.
Definitely. And finally, internally, support employee well-being. Create a work culture that genuinely values substance over style, reducing that internal pressure to keep up appearances. Because, as one source put it, the authentic influencers, the authentic brands, they will last the distance, whereas the ones who just churn out the fake stuff will eventually get canceled or just fade away.
Okay, so to kind of wrap this all up, the core message weaving through all our sources seems pretty clear. No sweater, no matter how soft or celebrity adjacent, is going to magically transform your life. Exactly. It's just not going to happen. Real change, the kind that actually sticks and genuinely makes you happier, it has to come from within. True confidence, real fulfillment, it isn't about looking perfect 24/7 or having all the latest, greatest stuff. It's much more about knowing who you are, what you actually stand for, and then showing up as that person authentically in the world.
So, as we finish this deep dive, maybe a final thought for everyone listening. Take a moment and consider how much of your own perceived aspirational life, the one maybe you project or dream about, is truly yours, versus how much might be consciously or unconsciously a borrowed script from that digital stage we've been talking about. And maybe ask yourself, what steps, even small ones, could you take this week to start writing your own unedited story?